that do require...
Police press conference up in Brisbane has started early. This isn't the latest to that house fire yesterday in Russell Island. Let's take it.
As to whether this fire is suspicious or not. It's important that I tell you that we are keeping an open mind with respect to this matter. And as I say, no determination has been made. But there are some aspects of it that require further investigation. I can also confirm that 2 women, one aged 28 and one aged 21, were released from hospital last night, and they are currently with friends. Today, we're hopeful of removing the bodies of the 6 people that tragically perished in this fire yesterday. A crime scene has been declared at Todman Street, and fire investigators and scenes of crime staff are currently there. Our disaster victim identification squad has been called in to assist in that process, and they will work through that today in terms of a formal identification of those persons and also autopsies. Fire investigators and scenes of crime staff will be working throughout today and tomorrow to try and identify the exact seat of the fire. But I do appeal to people that may have information in respect of this matter, whether they be on Russell Island or elsewhere, to make contact with Police Link or can phone Crime Stoppers anonymously. In terms of the local community at Russell Island, the Community Recovery Centre has been opened and is operational there this morning. There is a range of specialist services available to affected locals that will assist them in getting through this terrible tragedy. Happy to take any questions.
Superintendent, if the suggestion is you're saying you're not calling it suspicious, however, there are circumstances that still need to be investigated, can we ask what those circumstances are? And a further question is the 28 and 21-year-old that survived this fire, are they under, will they be called back in for questioning by police?
We're anticipating to have further conversations with them today. In terms of best investigative process, the elements that need further investigation or clarification must remain confidential at this time, as there are a number of persons yet to be interviewed and versions taken.
So there is a suggestion, though, from detectives, you've set up a squad, that there is, I guess the easiest way to put it, more to the story at this stage.
There's aspects to the investigation that require further scrutiny.
Was the male victim known to police?
He was known to police.
Was he allowed to be at the house?
So in terms of that aspect of it, we're still investigating that. I can confirm, though, that police have been to the residence in the past, but the nature and frequency of our attendance there is subject to internal review and will be part of the investigation.
Was it over matters of alleged DV?
So at this stage, the nature and frequency of our attendance is subject to the investigation and subject to internal review.
Is there any suggestion, Detective Superintendent, that the male victim wasn't allowed to be at the premises? Is that what your investigations will sort of lead to?
No, what I'm saying is the nature of our calls for service to the address is being reviewed, and also our response to those calls for service is being reviewed as part of the process. As to whether the male was supposed to be at the address or not is still subject to investigation.
Is that 21 and 28-year-old woman, are they cooperating with police?
So at this stage they are, that's correct.
And with the conversations you've been able to have with them, obviously there's an immense amount of trauma associated with this event. Have they been able to give you a clearer idea, or give your detectives a clearer idea of what has happened?
So we've got an initial version from them at this stage. You can appreciate both were extremely traumatised as a result of what happened. Were taken to hospital for treatment. It was important at that time that we obtain a quick version from them, but their medical needs superseded our needs at that time. We're hopeful of having further dialogue with them today.
What elements of this particular incident has given you cause for concern to want to scrutinise further?
There's still people to be spoken to that have not yet provided accounts or statements to police that we believe will assist. To speak to those elements now would compromise any information those persons may give us.
Could I ask Detective Superintendent if accelerant dogs have been over there, or will they be brought in for the investigation?
So at this stage, our primary activity this morning is the recovery of the bodies. Once that has occurred, we will then move into the next phase, which will be attempting to identify the seat of that fire and whether there's anything suspicious in relation to that.
Could you provide some context into how bad the scene is for your detectives, for investigators?
These scenes are confronting for all of us. They're particularly challenging. That scene's had to be guarded overnight, knowing that those people who perished are still there. It is our priority this morning, and our staff are very mindful that we need to undertake our investigations meticulously, but we also need to get them out of there as soon as we can.
Do you have any reason to believe the 28-year-old woman may be behind the blows?
At this stage, we haven't made any determinations in relation to whether it's suspicious or not.
Those questions will certainly be put to both of those women, I would believe.
So at this stage, we seek to re-interview them today, and hopefully they'll be able to provide some further information and context to what occurred.
What would you say, Detective Superintendent, to people that do have information? What's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
People on the island will know the local police. I suggest that they make approaches to those police if they have a relationship with them. Those people that don't wish to undertake that process can certainly contact us by Police Link or anonymously through Crime Stoppers. And it's not just people on the island. Anyone that has any information relevant to this address, we urge them to come forward.
Were there any domestic or family violence orders in place between the male victim and the 5 children in the home?
I can't comment on that at this time.
What would you say also to, I know it doesn't make your job any easier for people on social media that may start to put their own theories together. It does, particularly on Russell Island, which is a small community, it doesn't cause anything but harm, does it?
No, and it's important that, and whilst these issues are very emotive, it's very important that not only us as investigators to keep an open mind, but it's also important for the community to think that way. As challenging as that may be for some people, we really need to be left to do our job. We have always been very forthright with information when we're able to verify it, hence why we're doing this morning, and happy to keep you up to date once we have information that we're able to share that is evidentiary based and factual.
What are the challenges, I suppose, with getting investigators into the scene and getting those bodies out?
So there are a number of issues around contamination in terms of individuals entering those scenes. That is why we have engaged the Disaster Victim Identification Unit. We don't engage them lightly. We use them on major incidents such as these, and they have all the specialist equipment and training to be able to do what we need to do in there today.
Is this standard practice, Detective Superintendent, to have a task force of 25 of your your lead detectives on an incident like this?
Yes, it is. So until we determine whether it's suspicious or whether the matter is put before a coroner, it is standard practice to involve A, detectives of this nature, but B, the size of the task force.
Just to be cautious with our language, you say yesterday that there didn't seem to be suspicious circumstances around it. You're still saying that that's the case, but having that your investigators have to go back in, there is a task force. Does the language change? Do we now say that there are suspicious circumstances? Is that what we use, or
what we need to say is that there are elements to this that are yet to be run out, and that we need to keep an open mind with respect to that.
Yeah, that's the police going over some similar points there, but there are some key questions that Queensland Police looking at, keeping an open mind about whether or not it was a suspicious fire. The police had been called to that property before, and question marks over the man. as well. Police had been to that residence before and investigating whether the male was in fact supposed to be there or not. So, big questions facing police up there this morning when it comes to that investigation.